It gives me a great pleasure to narrate the story of Adyar Archives, which was started way back on 17th February 1922. I am even more gratified when I realize that we will be in the midst of the centennial celebration of both Adyar Archives as well as Adyar Day, which was also started on the same day. I feel really privileged and honored to present before you some of the treasures available in the archives. In the early days of the archives of the society, both Madam Blavatsky and Colonel Olcott had a grand vision for the archives and were great collectors of historical artifacts, in addition to recording the important incidents in scrapbooks and diaries. While Colonel Olcott had a day-to-day diary of events and of his travels, which was later published as Old Diary Leaves in 6 volumes, Madam Blavatsky maintained numerous scrapbook volumes. Over the years, all the international presidents have acted as custodians of the archives and have helped to preserve and enlarge it. Mr. C. Jinaraja Dasa was a passionate and great curator. The preserved material in the archives is extremely precious and historically very important. Besides diary and scrapbooks, the collection includes original letters, manuscripts, personal belongings, travel mementos, photographs, gifts, audio and video cassettes, etc. of various theosophical leaders. In today's program, I am going to present an overview of the glorious beginnings of the archival material available with us, the present condition of the archives, and also a vision of what our archives can become in the future in my view. I shall also briefly touch upon some ideas of our future proposals and projects that can be taken up to enhance the glory and utility of the archives. We need to remember that the very fact that someone had decided to include some material in the archives meant that it was of potential historical importance. So let me begin with the history of the archives, which had a humble beginning. On 17 February 1922, for the first time, Adyar Day was commemorated. In the morning and in the evening, there was a display of various items collected by Brother Jinaraja Dasa. Dr. Besant writes, quote, "We had our first Adyar Day according to Madam D. Manziarli's suggestion made last month and recommended in the Watchtower Notes in Adyar itself on the 17th of February. There was the usual meeting in the morning at 7:17, the moment at which the last breath passed from the president's body, or, within quotes, or ever silver cord was loosened. At that, representatives of Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, and Buddhism spoke of the great services done by him, Colonel Olcott, to their respective religions, the splendid record of his theosophical work. In the afternoon, she continues, thanks to Mr. C. Jinaraja Dasa, who has become the archives keeper. In the afternoon, she continues, thanks to Mr. C. Jinaraja Dasa, who has become the archives keeper of the Theosophical Society and is burrowing into the all old locked up boxes and bringing out treasures of the most varied kinds were arranged by a band of willing workers. A number of tables in the large hall of the society filled with mementos of the past, including some much prized articles belonging to the president founder and his great colleague HPB. On that special table was the turban worn by Maharishi Moria when he visited Colonel Olcott in New York, leaving him his turban as gift. There also was the original manuscript volume of the Secret Doctrine sent over here by HPB from London, and there were other articles of keen interest to Theosophists. On other tables were objects given to the TS by many members from many lands. Some assignments of French Revolution, beautiful specimens of Indian and Japanese work, a paper calling a quarterly meeting of the Matchmakers Union in London, and my own certificate of membership in the TS signed by the two founders. This is of Dr. Besant. I suppose the Colonel, with his love for archives, captured these on his visit to London to see his old chum. There were trowels and keys galore telling silently of the buildings founded and opened for the TS and its kindred movements. We have opened a room especially as a museum, and on one of its walls, on this first Adyar Day, I unveiled the lifelike portrait of Mr. A.P. Sinnott, for so long the Vice President of the TS and who was faithful in life and death, unquote. She continues, Mr. These are the memorabilia found in the museum. Scrapbooks, she continues, Mr. C. Jinaraj Dasa has discovered among the records of the TS much interesting material. The first of these is the series of scrapbooks of HPB beginning with that of 1874. These are referred to by Colonel Olcott in Old Diary Leaves. HPB's comments on the cuttings pasted by her contain most valuable material revealing the inner guidance of the founders even before the TS was actually organized. Her fascinating personality comes out in the witty and sometimes acid parentheses scribbled on the scrapbooks. Another interesting find is the manuscript of the first volume of the Secret Doctrine mentioned above. This evidently is the manuscript which HBB sent from Ostend in 1886 to Subba Rao. The Secret Doctrine, as we now have it, is an expanded version of this first manuscript, though in the later revision some sections were omitted, which are in the original draft. During the convention, there was an exhibition of arts and crafts exhibition and also exhibition in Elphinstone's High School from 23rd to 30th December 1924. Mrs. Josephine Ransom started her research using archival material at Adyar Archives. Quote, on the 14th April last, under the aegis of the TSOS, a small organization called the Adyar Center of Arts and Crafts came into being. Its object is to work for brotherhood through art, taking that word in its widest significance and including all branches of craftsmanship inspired by ideal purpose. Unquote. Archives and museum go together, and in 1925, Nicholas Roerich, a great painter and a spiritualist, and more importantly, a theosophist, presented a priceless possession, one of his masterpieces, The Messenger, to the Theosophical Society, which our museum proudly owns even today. The following news item appeared in the Adyar News and Notes in 1925. The museum at Adyar and how the seed was planted. In that memorable year, 1925, Nicholas Roerich, about whom everybody knows or ought to know, came to Adyar, bringing one of his masterpieces, The Messenger. And one morning in January, a simple ceremony took place in the headquarters hall. A group of residents gathered there, a draped picture on the easel, a short interval of music, a brief verbal introduction, and then Professor Roerich went to the easel and, unveiling the picture, said, in this home of light, let me present this picture of the messenger dedicated to Helena Petrovna Blavatsky as the nucleus of a future Blavatsky Museum of Arts, whose motto shall be, beauty is the garment of truth. Beauty is the garment of truth. Thus the seed was planted. Mary K. Neff was an American theosophist who came to India during Dr. Besant's presidency. Quote, in 1927, she, Mary K. Neff, returned to Adyar to catalogue the archive material for 2 years, making her thoroughly familiar with the history of the society. Among her contributions to the archives work was an index to HPB's scrapbooks and a chronology of the Mahatma letters developed by a reference to Colonel Olcott diaries. Unquote. In 1930s, A.J. Hammerster renumbered the volumes of the scrapbooks, and there were 24 of them at that time. He was a Dutch theosophist and served as an international treasurer at Adyar. He also served as assistant director of Adyar Library and wrote a series of articles in the Theosophist called Leaves from the Archives in 1936. He brought out to light some of the hidden treasures of the origin of the Theosophical movement and the facts about the founders. Boris D. Zirkov was a relative of Madame Blavatsky and lived in Point Loma community for many years. He was the editor of HPB's work, engaged in editing HPB Blavatsky's collected writings, and included some materials from the scrapbooks of HPB's from the archives. In this department are, of course, many of our permanent and priceless records, and among them are the scrapbooks of Madame Blavatsky with her marginal comments and diaries of Colonel Olcott and Dr. Besant. In the museum, recently we have completed digitizing the scrapbook with the help of young Brazilian volunteers Diego, Laura, and Ariel. In this department are, of course, many of our permanent and priceless records, and among them are the scrapbooks of Madame Blavatsky with her margin. Oh, I'm sorry. In the museum, which is a department of the archives, Mr. Jinarajadasa has placed HPB's precipitated teapot, which he brought from London and which he regards as #1 exhibit, unquote. The work at Adyar during 1941. During World War, they carefully removed all the documents from the archives and the artifacts from the museum to a safer place inland. In the presidential address, Mr. Arundale had this to say about the archives. If we become any greater danger from our Japanese brethren, we shall have to consider carefully the removal of our archives to a secret place so that they may be safe for future generations. Soon, Miss Catherine Beechey became the officer in charge of the archives. She assisted Pearson with the work of the photographic collection and also set up a dark room and an apparatus for microfilming. Miss Beechey and Boris D. Zirkov, along with the editor C. Jinarajadasa, were responsible for bringing out 2 volumes of HPB Speaks. Miss Beechey wrote about the archives for the Convention News. Quote, "For the past 5 years, the archives have been under my care, and I may say that I am only now really coming to know my way about them. Research is continually going on, and even now documents remain to be translated. In one scrapbook of HBB are to be found newspaper or other cuttings in English, French, Spanish, Italian, Russian, and German, to say nothing of the various Indian vernaculars, which I am not myself able to name. Articles have to be written, and unpublished documents suitably annotated have to be made available to students, especially in the pages of the Theosophist. New acquisitions are coming in all the time. Since the days of Madame Blavatsky and Colonel Olcott, vast quantities of representative papers covering the entire periods have been added so that these may be preserved in the archives for future study, unquote. Zoltan D. Algapa, former Hungarian general of noble birth, joined archive staff in 1958 and worked for 14 years and tried to improve the index by incorporating greater details. He also handled correspondence and answered requests. The president appointed him to take charge of the archives in 1965. Quote, Mr. D. Algapa assisted Boris D. Zirkov greatly in research needed to edit the collected writings, and Mr. D. Zirkov reciprocated by sending translations of Russian letters that he reviewed on microfilm made in the archives, unquote. During the 1975 Centenary Convention, Adyar Archives brought out a beautiful, informative, and interesting 16-page souvenir containing a reproduction of the first page of the first scrapbook, HPB's letter of New Year greetings to George Chela S. George G.S. Arundale, aged 8 years, etc. Miss Elizabeth Preston, Mr. David Dines, Miss Alvin Michel, Miss Karen Citrion, Mr. C.R.N. Swami, Miss R. Padmini, Mr. Paul Zwallow, Mr. Baden Offord, Mr. S.S. Verma, Conrad and Helen Jamieson, Miss Idar Miss Rodriguez, followed by Mr. John Yankin, Mr. R.M. Tolani, Dr. C.V. Agrawal, and Mr. Pablo Sender were officers in charge at various times in the past. They were ably assisted by Mr. Mohan Kulkarni, Mr. Enrique Fernandez, Miss Vilma Vanath, Miss Janaki and Revati Joshi, Miss Ruth Espin, and Miss Elizabeth Sterling, Mrs. Jay Gauri Shah, Mrs. Parvati Munirao, Mrs. Kiliki Vorinen, Miss Erika, Mrs. Izat Sancheda, Miss Elvira Carbonell. The list is not exhaustive, but I would like to acknowledge the devoted contributions made by one and all. The famous journalist Howard Moffett, who wrote the biographies of H.P. Blavatsky and Colonel Olcott, used the archives material for his research. And Mr. Michael Gomes spent some time in 1990s at the Adyar Archives studying HPB's heritage. The archives was closed for several years and later reopened in 1915 under the presidency of Mr. Tim Boyd. A new team headed by Mrs. Kusum Satpathy started the work of the archives almost from the scratch. Mr. Isaac Hurley from Spain, Dr. T.P. Araganandam, and I started working restoring the archives. Ms. Janet Krishner, archivist from Olcott Wheaton, visited and advised us on setting up the archives again. The Great Banyan Audiovisual Center was launched and I underwent training program under Mrs. Janet Krishner at Olcott Wheaton. Examples of some of the gems that we have. As mentioned by Professor Santuki, Part 3 Sources of Measure or Art Speech. This unpublished manuscript in the archives, this is the manuscript available in the archives at Adyar. C. Janarajadasa wrote about this in the Theosophist of August 1923. The first page is entitled Introduction, giving a key of formation of an ancient language. The last page says, I end this closing section of my work on Monday, the 18th day of February 1884, on the retiring of the flood water of the Ohio at 12 noon, I, Ranston Skinner, January 10, 1887, shall send this original manuscript to Madame Blavatsky, Ostend, unquote. CJ's article also included a table of contents for the manuscripts. Conrad's Amphitheatrum Sapientiae Aeternium, 1595, is one of the oldest books we have in the archives. Henrik Conrad's Amphitheatrum Sapientiae Aeternium is an alchemical classic, the best known of Conrad's works. The work is infused with strange combination of Christianity and magic, illustrated with elaborate hand-colored engraving plates heightened with gold and silver. It's a rare copy of the first edition of this book, published in Hamburg in 1595. We have also a collection of books of Madame Blavatsky's. These books have been carefully catalogued by Mr. Michael Gomes and these volumes are precious with notes and comments by Madame Blavatsky. Some books have been autographed by her and some for consultations. There is a huge collection of photographs of various leaders, their visit to various places. Mementos presented are preserved in the museum. Every year during convention, we select a theme and have an exhibition both at museum as well as in the archives. At present, our archives is in transition now. The current yes. This is the present archives. It's by the river. Do you want it again? No. Okay. Our archives is in transition now. The current location at the headquarters building is on the banks of the Adayar River. The location and the structure of the building are so beautiful and peaceful that whenever visitors visit archives, they don't fail to notice its charm. However, the proximity to the river makes the documents extremely vulnerable to flooding and ever-present moisture in the air, along with fungus, makes for quicker decay. In November 2015, the Adayar River was flooded, and as the water was rising, we had to shift the shelves of documents, photographs, and other things to the first floor near the President's office for safety. Fortunately, the flood water did not enter the archives. But what a close encounter that was. Despite the beauty of the present location, in the interest of the archives and its precious contents, we will soon be moving into a building housing our sister institution, the Adayar Library. This move would make many researchers happy, I include myself, because one need not run from one place to another for a reference. It saves time and energy and facilitates greater ease of functioning. Future plans. 1. The first priority is the digitization of all documents in the archives. The fact that someone decided to put a material in the archives means that it is of potential historical importance. 2. This includes all material sent from and to the different lodges and sections around the world, because these are crucial in the writing of the histories of theosophy in the different countries. These archival records are most accurate and authentic sources of official information. Another is third one. Another is the digitization of photos. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of photos in the archives that would be of interest to historians and biographers. The photographs will eventually fade through the passage of time, hence, the earlier they are scanned, the better, so that we preserve the unfaded image. 4. Transcription of certain documents and manuscripts, such as notebooks of HBB and the diary pages of Colonel Olcott. These, however, have to be studied well because some of them are unsigned and we are uncertain whether they were really the in the handwritings of Madame Blavatsky or Colonel Olcott. There are manuscripts in the library that seem to be versions of already published material. It would require scholars or historians to compare the published and unpublished version to see whether there are important differences that should be made available to the public. The books of HPB are in the archives. Scholars may wish to look through them and see whether there are notations or comments in them. If there are rare books that are relevant to the theosophical philosophy, we may wish to publish digital or physical copy of these books. Correspondence between early theosophists are very valuable for historical purposes. These need to be digitized as soon as possible because they are likely to fade very soon. Work and cost involved. The digitization project is one that will take long and careful work. Photographers will have to carefully handle the documents or pages, some of which are highly brittle. This requires committed volunteers and their time. 2. Under the guidance of a committee of theosophists, the documents have to be evaluated to determine which ones should be digitized and what may be done with them, whether to publish them digitally or physically, to transcribe them, or just to announce that there are such materials in the archives. 3. Some of the materials may need to be transcribed first, such as diary entries and letters. Some of these may perhaps just be digitally published in their facsimile form. All these digitized materials can be made available in one or two computers in the archives for researchers to go through so that they don't need to handle the original. Finally, if I am asked to choose a thing that I would want for the archives without any monetary constraints, I would choose BookEye 4 scanner. BookEye 4 scanner, which does everything that the archives needs. It would make a search very easy, scan without much damage to the book or to the document.
And how much does it cost?
But the cost is very high and it's very hard for me to press my views as the Theosophical Society Adyar has such a huge expenses already. Any amount of donation is humbly accepted and gratefully acknowledged. Thanks very much for your patient listening, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity given to me. Pardon me for any wrongdoing.